Hi campers and welcome to Maker Camp Halloween edition. Today we're going to be doing some really fun pumpkin carving, which is why I have this beautiful makeup on, like a carved jack-o'-lantern.
Quite nice.
And we're also going to be talking about Halloween food and decor. We have some great guests today. We have Lenore and Alfred who are going to be talking about some really great stuff that they're doing.
Hi.
And then we also have Carly again.
Hello.
And Carly is dressed up as Waldo today, if
Yes.
you couldn't tell.
Yes.
So we're going to have some great stuff, and I'm so excited to be able to see what we got in store today. I've also loved seeing what you guys have been posting on the Google Plus community page, so keep that up for sure. And I'm going to ruin the illusion by putting my glasses back on so I can see again. Here we go. And so I would like to go ahead and start talking to Lenore. Hi, Lenore.
Hi, Lenore.
Hey. So this little guy is our snap-o'-lantern. He sits still for a really long time, and then his eyes light up, and he gradually opens his mouth and then snaps shut.
Oh, that's really cool. Is it a timed sensor?
It's not a sensor at all. It's a microcontroller, so it's on timing. So if we look inside, he's going to open up pretty quick here. There's a little servo motor inside that is held in place with toothpicks, and it lifts up the servo horn to push the top of the pumpkin. And there's it's hinged on the back here, so they're completely separate, but the hinged part just rests in there so that he can lift his head up. Let's get him back together. Right.
That's awesome.
Big pointy teeth make it a little tricky there. Now he's that here.
Do you put those outside of your house every Halloween?
We have put these outside the house, and they're very popular, especially with little kids. If you get one that opens its mouth just a little bit wider, when it starts to open its mouth, they stick their fingers in, and then when it chomps down, it's a pumpkin. It doesn't really hurt them, but they scream away because it's so scary.
That's great. I love that.
So
I imagine they get stolen a lot, though.
Oh, we pay pretty close attention to them. So the brains are here. There's an AT-Tiny 2313 microcontroller and battery box for power, and you can just tuck those away in its little pedestal box so that they're hidden. And
oh, that's cool.
That's great. I love that. It's got such personality to it.
Every single one has a different personality. If you do a little bit taller pumpkin, you can actually put the eyes inside the pumpkin, just cut out little holes for them, and stick the eyes in the pumpkin. But it has to be a pretty lightweight pumpkin for the servo to still be able to lift it up. So we usually go with one of the little mini gourds.
Oh, that's very interesting. Where did you guys come up for the inspiration for your pumpkin?
So we did a whole bunch of high-tech pumpkin projects for the Austin Maker Fair in 2007, I think. So this was one of them. There was also a really sneaky one that had wheels underneath, and so it would sit on your porch and not move, and then similar to this one, its eyes would light up, and then it would roll like 4 inches to the left. And
that's great.
And then it would wait, it'd be still, and then it would roll, 6 inches to the right. So there was that one, and we did a few other blinky pumpkins, putting LEDs inside. We usually put blinky LEDs inside pumpkins.
Oh, cool.
That's awesome. And I want to remind campers that if you have any questions, please post them on the Google Plus community page, and we'll try to get some of those in here as well. And then, Lenore, I know you do a lot of stuff with pumpkins and food and costumes, decor, all that stuff. So what other fun things do you have in store this Halloween?
We were just talking about some of our food projects today. One of my favorites is called Eyeball Caprese. So a caprese salad is basil and tomato and mozzarella. Mm-hmm. It's a really good, classy, simple salad. The difference with the eyeball caprese is that you add some olives as well. So you lay out your basil leaves and then a slice of tomato, and then instead of using slices of mozzarella, you use the little round mozzarella balls. And then on top of that, you put a slice of green olive. So you have this stack up of the eyeball on top of the tomato, on top of the basil, and drizzle a little bit of olive oil over the top so that it looks like the fluid from the back of your eye. And it tastes really good, and it looks kind of gross. If you put 2 on a plate, you get your pair of eyeballs. It's great. That's one of my favorite Halloween food projects.
I love how sick it is that it's got this like so gross but awesome. Oh gosh, I love it. I love that so much. That's so fantastic.
What a fun idea.
Yeah, I'll have to do that. I have to do that to my family. Around Halloween, just show up with a plate with just that on it.
Oh, and if you do a whole array on a platter, all those eyeballs looking up at you, it looks really good. And if you use, have you ever had Castelvetrano olives that are really bright green?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, okay, so you take the slice of that and then use a drinking straw to cut a hole in the slice of the olive, and then you use the same drinking straw to cut a little piece of black olive out. And that forms the black pupil that you stick inside the green slice.
Oh, that's really clever.
That's a great idea.
Good.
You
is Halloween your favorite holiday?
Absolutely. Well, that's a tough call. I like Thanksgiving too, because Thanksgiving is all about food as well.
I like your priorities. That's great. So, do you have any decor fun thing? Like, I mean, we got the pumpkins, but what else? What's your favorite like Halloween decoration or fun thing to do?
Let me think. Decor. We actually did a lot with Legos one year. We made mutant Legos. We in fact hollowed out, or not hollowed out, but carved a jack-o'-lantern face in a Lego minifigure head and put an LED inside to make a mini headless horseman.
Oh, that's cool.
So that was fun. Oh, and another fun one that we did was making tombstones, because you can make them out of concrete and then carve whatever you want in them. So it's an inexpensive, easy-to-do prop that looks really good.
Oh,
that's
great.
Awesome. And do you have do you know what you're going to go for Halloween this year?
Oh, I don't even have any idea. I'm far behind in my planning for this year.
What have you been in the past?
Last year we went to a Halloween wedding.
Oh, wow.
Our best friend from high school got married on Halloween, and we went. We carved jack-o'-lanterns and wore them on our heads, so we went as pumpkin people.
Oh my gosh!
And it was a very well-received costume. Everybody really loved it, but pumpkins are really heavy. No matter how much you clean out the walls, they're really heavy. You get a little tired by the end of the night.
Yeah, I can imagine. Was it outside and hot or something, or was it at least? It
was in Ohio, and it was freezing. So
gosh,
we had lots of layers because we wanted to make it look really realistic. We put the black, see-through mask over our heads so that. So we were really warm inside the pumpkin.
I bet.
We didn't want to see the eyes inside the jack-o'-lantern. We wanted it to look all black. So we had that, and we had skeleton gloves on and skeleton socks and so on to make it look even more creepy.
Was it hard to see with that black mask on underneath the pumpkin?
It was more hard to see because the eyes of the pumpkin only let you see in one direction. Then with the mask wasn't so much the problem as the limited range of view from the pumpkin.
Yeah, that's pretty tough. That's some commitment there.
Well, we do like Halloween.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, what other technology, things are you working on right now? I mean, I know that everyone knows Evil Mad Scientists and how awesome they are. So, what kind of things do you have cooking up right now?
Well, right now I'm actually working on making the Snap-o-Lantern into a little kit so that you have all of the parts, the servo motor and the circuit board and the pre-programmed chip and of course LEDs. Everybody loves LEDs.
Yeah.
So I'm putting together a little kit so that people can make their own Snap-o-Lanterns. And the one thing that we've been working on really hard for the last few months is the watercolor bot. So we'll be continuing to work on that one as well.
Well, that's great, Lenore. Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Yeah, that's awesome. So let's go ahead and jump over a little bit to Alfred. And Alfred, why don't you tell us what you have been doing lately, and what do you have there behind you?
All right. Well, I have been getting ready for the Halloween season. This is the busy time for me because I travel a lot doing pumpkin carvings for different events. So I'm getting ready in 2 days. I'm going to Atlanta, and then next week Massachusetts, and then I'm back home carving, and then it's a lot of traveling and very late nights in strange hotels and carving in the bathrooms of hotels, leaving lots of
Well, thank you so much for
Carving
making
pumpkins in hotels is challenging, and finding the local sources for pumpkins.
Yeah, well, luckily I have them delivered to the hotel before I even arrive, so I don't worry myself with that.
Do you have to specify what size pumpkins for them?
Yeah, not just the size, but the shape of the pumpkin is really important too. So that's also a good point to if you're going to be doing like 3D pumpkins and you want to pick out a really good one, you need to focus on like oval, like as you look down on the stem, this is the stem, as you look down on it this way, you want oval shape or sort of wedge shaped pumpkins, and then you carve along that narrow face. And that way, so like our face is sort of oval, it establishes a nose plane and that stuff really easy for you. Like on this one, right, you've got all this protrudes the furthest out. So by the time you get to the eyes, you're really on the side of the pumpkin, and you're carving just along the sides, which they're only about 1.25 inches thick. But when you're carving back towards them, it doesn't really matter how thick they are. You can really push the sides. It's just in the corners of the eyes, corners of the mouth, where you're going to be the deepest, and that's where, generally if you're going to punch through the pumpkin, that's where it happens, and then you end up with a big dark hole on your carving. But you got to push the depth to get to that point, and the depth is what makes a good pumpkin, so you got to keep going.
I just have to say your work is pretty outstanding.
Thanks.
I was looking at great pumpkin carvings on the internet, and all your stuff popped up. I was like trying to get inspired for my own pumpkin that I've been working on, and I ran into that problem where I got a more flat pumpkin.
Yeah.
And so I knew I was getting into some serious trouble.
Yeah, I've had friends ask me a lot of tips, and when I tell them that one, just about the shape of the pumpkin, they have that slap to the forehead, like, now it makes total sense. They've been looking for smooth, like really smooth, round pumpkins, and that's great for doing like light-up pumpkins. I do a lot of those. I did a lot of portrait pumpkins for the Ellen Show, and a couple of shows in Houston. And those are fun, and you want a smooth surface for those, right? Because you want to have like a nice clean thing. You don't want it to be too lumpy, and that's great for light-up pumpkins. But for like carving pumpkins, you really want the shape is important versus like how smooth or round it is. So that's where these guys, and they're hard to find sometimes. You got to really look through the pumpkin patch to find the good ones, and pick the heavy ones. Like if you have two that are similar, pick the heavier one because it means more meat.
Oh, that's really great advice.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
What about tools? What would you recommend for the pumpkin carver?
All right, you got to get one of these, right? Your standard sort of loop tool. All right, and then all the loop tools I use are ribbon loops, right? So not wire loops, which are good for clay. These are all ribbon loops because they're going to be stiffer, right? A wire loop's just going to bend over the second you put it into the pumpkin. This sort of ribbon loop, right? Nice and flat sort of ribbon. Is going to hold up to that, and then it usually has a little bit of an edge to it. This one's great for starting. It's got a nice big broad shape, so you can really get in and carve away. You've got the round shape for digging out big hollows. If you want to hollow out an eye, you can just dig right in. And then the pointier side, you can get into the corners of the eye. If you want to establish where the mouth is going to be. All that sort of stuff. So this one little tool will do a lot of the work for you, and you can do a lot of the shaping, get in there, and it's also good for peeling. You want to peel the pumpkin with this one, and get down to that.
I found that when I go at it with that tool, it tends to be, you got to put some muscle behind it.
Yes, yeah, it's that first layer is a little tougher than most people think. Once you get into the meat of the pumpkin, it's easy going, but that first layer is a little trickier, and so having a nice sharp tool really is good. And then after you get into that, then you want to like scale down. So I've got these guys, which is another sort of just ribbon tool, right? There you go. So just a flat end and a round end, but again with a little bit of an edge. And then as you get into details, you'll want a variety of little guides. Let's see if I can show you those. Can you see those?
Yeah.
Detail.
Yeah,
Right.
for all those really
So, yeah.
detail work.
Yeah, little round shapes, right? Little round guys, little square edge ones, and then little triangle shapes. And these come in multiple sizes. I usually get big and small, just so I can have detail stuff. And then as you get into the fine details, you'll want some X-Acto knives. So just a standard number 11 blade. And then I like that one right there, the curved blade, because you can sort of get around sort of shapes, especially when you're doing like eyes. The straight one is tougher to get a nice round shape. You sort of have to take a lot of little cuts to it to get a nice round ball. But with this one, you can just get a nice, clean, like whoop, little swoop, and then it carves out a nice circle. So those are great. So when you're establishing those big ones, and then when you get into
Oh man, I feel like I'm on a talk show.
yeah, so the lighting's not super great in here. Let me see if I can. Maybe I can get a little more light on him. All right, so
Okay.
so he's got cool little creepy face. But as you get into the details of this guy, then you want those little, the little tools, because you can really do wrinkles, just really quick, and you're just drawing them in, following the shapes and the forms. When you want them to be deeper, break out the X-Acto knife, get that number 11 blade, and then you just cut in at an angle one way, and then come back in the opposite direction and cut at an angle that way, and you'll sort of take out this little wedge comes out. Sometimes you have to scoop it out because it's so narrow, but you'll establish a much darker little plane in there. So that's one way to really punch the details into there. And then the other thing is, don't be afraid to add to your pumpkin. Use a sacrificial pumpkin or the backside of a pumpkin. Carve stuff away, add tusks, antennas. If you need more space for a nose, that's usually where you run out of space. Add a little bit there. Super glue works great.
Oh, cool.
Pumpkin meat is amazingly similar to like human skin when it comes to super glue. Like the second it touches, it bonds really well.
Wow.
So super glue works great. If it's a big piece, use a couple pieces of wire or bamboo skewers. Stick some bamboo skewers in there and stick them on. And I've got an example of that one. This is one I did yesterday. You might recognize the character a little bit. So there's a little Princess Leia pumpkin.
Yeah.
That's adorable.
She has some attitude.
Yeah.
Oh, that's fantastic. I love the eyes.
That's just two little little mini gourd pumpkin things, and then just a nice cool little expression with the face and little lips. Now, the smaller ones aren't great for carving because they're real chunky, like the meat is real fibrous. But, for something really simple with a simple face. And this one I didn't even get that far into, like, depth-wise.
Right.
You can see, right? I didn't really push too far into it because it just started, like, breaking up. The eyelid started to break up and stuff. Just there wasn't enough solidity to it. But, it reads from afar, and if you leave a little bit of that surface skin, then you get a nice little red nose and red lips.
Yeah.
Right?
That's great.
Just with the skin, just going just past the skin, knowing that you're going to leave that in there, and it gives it just a little bit of that warmth right in there.
So what's the biggest pumpkin you've ever carved?
Last year I carved an 1880 pound pumpkin.
Wow.
Yeah, that was a light up pumpkin, so it was lit from the inside, and I actually was inside the pumpkin hollowing it out.
Oh my gosh.
So I have a photo of me sitting in there, and it was like a snow cave. It was big enough for me to just sit cross-legged comfortably, and I just sat in there carving away the inside, thinning it down. And then on the outside, we did this really cool, like, haunted forest thing for the New York Botanical Gardens.
That's
cool.
fantastic.
How long would that pumpkin last?
It lasted, it was probably a week or so for that one. It starts to degrade. All the ones that I carve when I'm doing just practice, I put them out in the yard or I take them to friends' houses, and they last maybe like 2 days before they really start to break down. But we had some rain here in the last 2 days, and the pumpkins that were outside are still kind of halfway decent. They're a little dry. You can see the surface gets a little white, but you can still see the forms. So the rain helped them stay a little fresh for a little bit longer.
Well, that's good.
Yeah, that's great. How long did it take for you to carve that?
The little one, this one only took probably about 2.5 to 3 hours, maybe, like that. The other sort of funky, this is a heavy one. This creepy looking guy. This one took probably about 2.5 hours as well, but just because I was establishing the shapes and things, I gave him like the cool sort of goat pupils, you know. But I'm planning on finishing this one, so I'll probably still put another, 2 hours, 3 hours maybe getting the details in.
And what about the really big one?
Oh, that big one took a couple days. Yeah.
Wow.
There was no way to do that in one day. That took several days of carving and climbing inside, and you have no idea how wet the inside of a pumpkin is. It's amazing when you're sloshing around in there. And I had a rain slicker, and I was in there carving, and at one point, just from carving, the water built up in the pumpkin enough that it got past the back of the slicks and went down like my pants. And because it was so warm and hot in there, I didn't even notice. It was room temperature or body temperature. And when I got out and I took off the rain gear, it was like, why did I even bother with the rain gear? Because the entire back side of my pants was just soaked in pumpkin juice.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it wasn't fun.
So how did you keep it overnight? Like, did you have to do something to it so that it didn't dry out?
Not the big one. The big one, the wall was, I think, 10.5 inches thick.
Oh my gosh.
I mean, it was a massive wall. So there was so much meat in that thing, it just wasn't going to dry out. It was
well, that's good.
Yeah.
And then we had really bright halogens inside, I think we switched from halogens to LEDs to keep the heat down. But we had really bright LEDs on the inside lighting the inside of the pumpkin. So even with that heat generated by the lights, it still kept for, I think, about a week.
Oh,
wow.
Great.
Yeah, it was surprising.
So how long have you been doing pumpkin carving?
Professionally for like 4 years, I think. Started with the Ellen Show. They contacted me and said, "Hey, do you want to do pumpkins?" And I just figured, okay, why not? I'll try. And turned out they really liked the pumpkins that I carved, and so I kept doing it in following years. But before that, I was just doing pumpkins for fun, just for myself. Okay. But I never posted them, so when they approached me, it was weird because there was, you would have never known that I carved pumpkins. They just looked for a sculptor and said, do you want to give it a try? And I just, cool. I'm always up for a challenge, so I said yes.
Wow, that's awesome. Yeah, I've seen some of yours on Ellen, and they're so fantastic. It just really, there's so much detail, but they're like simple but interesting and gorgeous, and I loved them. They were just so well done.
Yeah. The light up pumpkins are really fun because you get to play with depth, and it's a lot like it's part sculpting, part drawing because you're playing with light, but then you're also sort of carving into the surface, and it's really wonderful when you get the portrait right and you get all the shading and the halftones and all that stuff in the face, and people look at it and they don't even believe that it's pumpkin when you show them a photo. They're like, "Oh, that's a watercolor or a drawing?" You're like, "No, that's a pumpkin lit from the inside," and then it blows their mind.
Yeah. Could I get some pointers for my pumpkin that I was working on?
Absolutely.
Okay, hold on just 1 second.
Will do.
Okay, so I just started this afternoon.
Oh, cool, skull pumpkin. Nice.
Yep, I was working on the skull, and you can see kind of the shape of the pumpkin is really round, and that's kind of where I went wrong to begin with.
Sure, that'll slow you down a little bit. Well, one, you're going to want to sharpen up, get some smaller tools so that you can get the darkers to look a little tighter, a little crisper, because everything's sort of chunky and loose.
Yeah, definitely.
So do a little of that, and then try to taper the cheekbones sort of back at an angle as much as you can. Like yeah, exactly, that way. Just sort of back and away.
So you can kind of see where I started a little bit.
Yeah, but you can still push it a little more just because I can see how deep the pumpkin is there.
Yeah.
Just to get it a little further back. And then along the edges of the pumpkin, that space that's created around the skull. Flatten that out and then texture it. Do some cool designs or something along the side so that the skull pops out from the center and then it has like a nice border on it.
Right. Okay.
And that'll really help the design. And then for the surface, pick up some scouring pads, like these little, just for doing dishes or whatever. This happens to be plastic steel wool.
Okay.
But these on the surface of the pumpkin are really great because you can just rub it down like you're taking a brush to clay, and it'll smooth that surface down and even everything out for you. Because the tool will sometimes tear up the pumpkin a little bit. But this will take it right back down and give you like a smooth, polished surface. It's amazing. This goes a long way. I'm
excited to get one of those.
Yes, I've got these that are all full of pumpkin goodness on them, and they're amazing for smoothing out all of that rough texture. I don't know. Let me see if you can see some of it. I'll try to get it close.
Well, I can already tell your pumpkin is definitely a lot smoother than what I've got.
Yeah, but see, like up in the forehead, like it's still a little chunky in there because I haven't taken the tool to it. And like down here, it's a little bit, but here, like around the mouth, let me see, there we go.
Yeah, you can see the details more defined.
Right. See, and then and you see the nice deep shadows, right?
Yeah.
Like those are the things that'll make it pop. So it's a little bit of contrasting sort of things, right? You want the smooth forms that you can do with the scouring pad, and then the deep shadows that you do with the X-Acto knife, and then you'll really get a lot of depth. And then just keep pushing. Like touch the pumpkin, feel in the corners of the eyes, like on yours in the eye socket. Just push that pumpkin. Like,
feels like I've got a lot to work with still.
Right. If it's still pretty firm, you can push it a little further. Once it's bouncing back, then you're getting really close and you want to be careful. But if you can still push in there and it's not really moving, you've got room to push that pumpkin further. And if you push that a little further, then everything else can go that much further as well.
Yeah. Great. Well, thank you, Alfred.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So do you have any from my pumpkin here? There you go.
Let's take a look. You've got enough depth, I think. But I'd say maybe try to light it from the inside so it glows. Since you went all the way through on the eye.
Yeah, I'll get right on that. Get some LEDs there.
Oh, well, thanks, Alfred.
Yeah, thank you so much for all those tips. And so I just wanted to know, like, what age range do you think is, when's it good to get started carving pumpkins?
Oh, you can go right. I have a 2-year-old daughter that hacks away at pumpkins. The X-Acto knives. The ribbon loop tools that you use, even though they have a bit of an edge, I'm putting 50, 60 pounds of force on that, and it's barely leaving a mark. So it's not really sharp enough to cut through your finger unless you're really hacking away at yourself. But any responsible kids, 7, 8 years old, they'll be fine. Let them have fun. Let them dig away at the pumpkin. Just have at it. And if they're good kids and you can trust them with a knife under supervision, give them, let them use an X-Acto. Let them start practicing some responsibility with the sharp objects, just under supervision. But those first tools, just the big loops and the little, these little triangle guys, with that alone, you can really get some cool looking pumpkins. So start them young.
Awesome.
So is there a website where people can go to check out all of your work? apsculpturestudio.com. So AP like my name, and then sculpturestudio.com. And then you'll see just sculpture that I do for the collectibles industry, and then there's actually a section on there for pumpkins. So you'll get to see pumpkins from last year and previous years. I haven't put any up from this year other than my Facebook page, but I will soon start updating the website with this year's pumpkins. All right, and can people find you on G+ and other social media sites?
Well, I just joined to do this thing because I'm not super technically savvy. I do a lot of things with my hand. I can build houses, I can build sculptures, but when it comes to websites, if it doesn't involve a wrench, I have a hard time figuring it out. So,
I definitely understand you on that front.
yeah, so I'm new to it. I'm sure they can find me. I'm on Google Plus now, so look up Alfred Paredes, and you'll find me, I think.
Yeah, keep posting those pumpkins.
I
Yeah,
will
I'd
do
love to
that for
see your
sure.
work.
I can't wait to see what you continue to do with it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks.
All right, so Carly, we are going to start talking about all of your fun things that you have.
Yes.
So what do you have for us?
I showed you guys the pumpkin I was working on, and I got some great tips from Alfred there. We also have some great Halloween food treats, and I worked on a couple of different things. We have some healthy options and not so healthy options for all of those people out there.
They seem to be very well segregated between the two plates, too. Maybe that was me doing that subconsciously.
Okay, so we've got little pumpkins to stay in the pumpkin theme, and they've got little, they're like little cutie pumpkins with leaves off of celery sticks. So you can get your cutie and peel it and take the little leaves off of your celery, 1 or 2 leaves, and then stick it into the cutie. And these are really great for little fun gatherings you might have. So, you know.
And I really like the definition you got on the cuties. How do you get those like lines on the side of them?
Yeah, so if you look closely to the cuties, and when you pull an orange or a cutie, naturally you'll see all of the like little white skin that's left on there. You want to try to get those off by just pulling. You don't have to pull apart the cutie because it won't go back together.
Yeah.
But you can also create more definition by putting your fingernail into the little edges. And
yeah,
then
it really adds something extra to it.
Yeah, so you got cute little pumpkins. I've got a ghost banana. So we've got a little half of a banana with 3 chocolate chips, 2 chocolate chips for the eyes, 1 chocolate chip for the mouth, and we've got, I don't know if you can tell what that is, but it's a little piece of an apple,
the skin
of an apple. So you can make your ghost bloody, you don't have to make your ghost bloody, you can create
kissy lips like that.
Yeah,
one.
so this one is another good one. Paloma did this one. We've got a kissy ghost.
Adorable.
So Halloween's the perfect time to play with your food if you didn't already know that. So that's a really great one.
And I love this plate too. This plate's got the cool.
Yeah, and then the last healthy one that I'm going to show you is you can create little witches' brooms. I feel like I'm going to drop this, so bear with me, guys. So it's some string cheese, and then on the end of a pretzel, and you just tie it with some celery. Like you peel the celery back, and then you tie it around. So it's like a little witchy broom, and then you would cut the little ends. So it goes well with the bananas, the cuties, and now you have a witch's broom.
And it looks great because you have the string of the celery tying it together like a little string, and it's so it looks really great. I'd love to see a full plate of them too.
Yeah. So now we have some not so healthy treats for all of those cookie lovers out there. We've got witch's fingers, which is a very traditional sort of Halloween treat that I've grown up with. And so we've got, if you can see it, so got the white on there with the nails. Had Paloma help me out. You can also do ogre's fingers or Wicked Witch of the West fingers, whichever one you decide. So you can take a little bit of cinnamon and create little grooves with a knife and put cinnamon in the knuckles. So it creates kind of that kind of dirty look.
That's
Here,
awesome.
You want to try one?
Yeah. That's good. That's good. I like it.
Oh, I'm sorry you don't get one, Alfred.
We'll just have to mail it.
Yeah, please send one.
We'll put it inside a pumpkin. So what do we have here?
Oh, I should have shown this first. This is my favorite. So after I hollowed out my pumpkin last night, I took all the pumpkin seeds. Do you ever do that, Alfred?
I do, yeah. I take out pumpkin seeds, I save them. I actually did a 220-pound pumpkin last year, and I kept those seeds and planted them in my garden. I've only got a little one right now, but I'm hoping it'll survive to 100 plus.
Oh, wow. Great. So I've got a whole thing of pumpkin seeds that I took and I cleaned them and just, I rinsed them out and picked them out. And I plopped them in the oven with a little bit of olive oil, salt and pepper, and garlic for about 20 minutes at 325, and they are delicious.
I stole some earlier. They're pretty good. They're dang good.
I love them, and that's a really, really great snack that you can take everywhere with you. Do you ever get sick of pumpkin seeds?
No, not really, because it's only such a short window.
Yeah.
I take advantage, and pumpkin seeds are delicious. When I was younger, I would do the same thing, although I would sun dry them. I'd cover them in salt and put them in the sun and just let them sit out in the sun for a couple days.
Oh, that's great.
That sounds really good, too. We should do that outside and get some pumpkin seeds going.
Just bring them in at night, otherwise all the squirrels and critters will get them.
Oh, yeah. That's a good point.
That's a good point. I would not have remembered that. I have a lot of birds at home, so they just take them and go off with them.
Yeah. So those are all of the food eats that I have. And there are plenty more. Like you can make caramel apples, candy apples. You can make these really great cupcakes and just decorate them. I know that for the last year for the end of the world, I made some end of the world cookies. Ooh. And I made gravestones and put all of the. You can make them really scary. You can also put them on top of cupcakes with a little bit of crumbled up Oreo to make the ground.
Ooh.
Yeah, so you can get really creative with your Halloween foods, and yeah.
When do you sleep? You're always doing something interesting, all the time, and working.
Oh, I love being creative. It's what I do.
And you're good at it, so I'm happy to enjoy the fruits of your labor. So I just wanted to say thank you guys again for being here. It's been so fun talking to you, and I've learned a lot about what I'm going to do for Halloween. I never do crazy stuff around my house, and this year it's on. I'm starting it up. So campers, if you guys do anything awesome, please post on the G+ community page. I've been scrolling through, and I love seeing what you've been posting, and I'll give you a +1. And I'd love to see them, so next week, if you guys post something great, we might show it off at the beginning of the show. And just thank you guys so much for being here. It's been so fantastic.
Thank you so much, Alfred. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Oh, it was my pleasure. Thanks.
Yeah.
And next week we're going to have costume makeup, and that'll be really awesome. So tune in next week, same time.
Yeah.
All right, see you then, campers.
Bye, campers.